All right, we are loading. We'll be active here in just a minute. All right, good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today to our weekly Wednesday live YouTube panels. My name is Jessica Hayes and I'm with Alignment Rockford. I'm the Work-Based Learning Coordinator. And with me today, I have Mike Wilson, who is the Creative Director at Trek. And I have Justin Davis, who is the Application Developer with Trek as well. And joining me for my co-moderator and my friend today is Roman with Boy Scouts of America. So thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate it. Justin, let's go ahead and start with you. If you can tell me a little bit about your job, your career, and how you got to where you are today.
Oh gosh, so make sure I'm not muted. It's very often the case of these things. So yeah, my name is Justin. I'm lead application developer here at Trek. And to be perfectly honest, I did not go to school for computer science. I am self-taught. I was living overseas and had a lot of extra time, and I taught myself how to code, and I eventually found Trek. And that was 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago that I started here with Trek. And since then, I've been responsible for writing a number of augmented reality, virtual reality, and native applications for iPhone and Android, and a little bit of web stuff here and there, but primarily mobile applications are what I've been focusing on for the past few years.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us. It's interesting to hear. I can't wait to hear more about your path and how you got into this. Mike, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do at Trek?
Yeah, my name is Mike Wilson, Creative Director here at Trek. I went to school, majored in visual communication from NIU. I've been with Trek for almost over 10 years now. And in the creative department, we oversee all visual designs, whether it's going from, designing the interfaces for the applications or the AR experiences, to print collateral, to brand identities, and just everything that we do.
Can you tell us a little bit about Trek and the company itself?
Sure. Trek, we are coming up, I believe, on our 26th year in business. And Trek is a all-encompassing marketing design firm where we handle every facet of design and marketing, when it starts from client relations and from ideation to development and deployment.
That's great information. Thank you for sharing that with us. Can you tell us a little bit about, Justin, let's go with you. What's some things that you did in order to learn coding and teach yourself how to code? What is something that a student can do if they really are interested in that?
I think the biggest asset that I had when I was learning how to code was time. Honestly, I wasn't here in the States when I was teaching myself, so I had ample opportunity in the evenings and the morning hours to focus on what I really wanted to focus on. I picked a platform. In this case, it was Apple's iOS, and I just dug into it. I found every resource online that I could possibly find. I took a number of online courses, and I challenged myself to create 2 games and release them on the store before I ever came back to the States. So for me, it was just a matter of focusing in on the platform that I wanted to spend the most amount of time on, and then devoting that time. So I guess you really wanted to boil that down to the biggest asset I had, or the asset I had at the time, was a matter of a desire and the ability to focus on one platform. Because I think it's all too easy to, when you're getting into coding, look at all of your options and all the potential platforms you could be developing for, and it's all too easy to spread yourself too thin, right? So I think being able to focus in on a single platform, at least initially, when you're first starting out, would be your best asset.
That's great advice. Thank you for that. And that's, our students really want to know, like, what's the career like? What does it take to get there? What are some things I can do to prepare myself for it? So, Mike, if you want to tell us a little bit about some of the classes that you took in college and kind of the information that you would like to share that would be very important for students to know and what they could do now to prepare for that.
Certainly. In high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So it's okay to not know that you want to get into, or exactly what you want to get into. I was in high school really involved in the arts. both performing and visual. So I always had that drive and that like for art. In college, my major changed a couple times, but then I landed up in wanting to do something with the art. And so, we joke around sometimes is like I draw pictures all day, which is it's fantastic. But it's on a computer, right? We get to use our creativity and we really try and poise ourselves as problem solvers. And when the client comes to us with a need or a task or anything like that, we're trying to approach it like a problem solution. And in college classes that were really vital for that is some of the critical thinking courses that it taught with that, and then also understanding like design theory. You do have to, I feel it helps to have the appreciation for art and an artistic eye, and visually understanding things that you guys are really liking with that. So yeah, does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
I appreciate that. It's a great way to tell them like what coursework is important and what things they can take that would be beneficial to them to learn how to do this job. That kind of leads me into the next question of what's the best thing that you like about your job? What's the thing that makes you go to work every day?
For me personally, I love the company that I work with. And I love the people that I work with here too. So that is in and of itself is a great experience. So that makes it super easy to get up in the morning and come into the office. But again, it's something that I'm passionate about. I love being able to come in and to look at the problems, come up with creative solutions, and then apply what I have loved since an early age in high school and apply that in these new tool sets of creating brand identities using the computer, and some of the newer technologies with AR, VR, and how that creative aspect then rolls into all of those. So that coming in every day is just, it's absolutely fantastic. And that's what I really love about it.
That's awesome. Justin, how about you? What do you like? What makes you go to work every day?
I think I'm going to echo Mike, just at least to start. Working for Trek is absolutely fantastic, and working with my coworkers, my fellow developers, and then the creative team is one of the big things that kind of like Mike said gets me up in the morning, right? But at the same time, I often say that like my job is my hobby because it is. Because if I'm not at home writing Trek code, I'm probably at home writing my own code. Because in my spare time, I like making games, and I mean, in my mind, there are few things as entertaining as playing a game. And I think the only thing that Apex is playing a game would be making a game, if that makes any sense. So I think the power to, or the opportunity to create rad things and solve really difficult challenges makes the job tremendously rewarding.
So you kind of are, you guys are really helping move on this to the next question that I have. And one of them is, what's a cool project? I mean, you talk about what you're currently doing, Justin, and all the things that you've done. And I'm pretty sure you probably couldn't narrow it down to just one, but could you tell us of maybe one or two really cool projects that you've got to do or put together that would be fun that you could share with the students that, that they would be interested in maybe doing a project someday themselves?
Oh, I sure can narrow it down to a single project. Just this last year, we produced an augmented reality Space Invaders game that had its own custom leaderboard. So the game was designed to work with a specific client, and it was designed to work with their employees, in which they would compete for prizes based on their score within this augmented reality Space Invader game. And it wasn't your typical Space Invader so much as, with Space Invaders, you've got the spaceship down at the bottom, and the enemies up top. But now the enemies are in front of you, and they're shooting right at you, right there. They're moving around, surrounding you. So I think that was probably the most interesting project that I think I've worked on within the past year. If only because it was at least for the end user, it was a very immersive experience, being able to get into the game and be face to face with a Space Invader aliens that had prior to otherwise just been, pixels on a screen, right? Well, now they're inside this window in front of you, and they're not letting down. They want a piece of you too.
Did you like take this to the company and they do it there? Is that?
It was actually it was pushed up to the iOS and Android app stores. So I mean, it's up now.
Huh.
Yeah,
That's really
so
neat.
it was a really fun experience. Just, it's not just a matter of in this case, because it was augmented reality. It wasn't just a matter of code, right? There was an element of going in and manipulating objects in 3D space, and then working with how you interact with these objects in 3D space, and that goes well beyond code, but it still has that foundation of code for me.
Huh. That's awesome. I have to go look that up and see that project because it seems like a really interesting project that you
It's
worked
very
on.
fun.
And Mike, do you want to follow up on that and tell us maybe some cool project that you've done that you would like to share?
Yeah. Similar to how Justin, I think, found a project that he could really, gravitate towards, is one of the projects I can think of is one that utilized all of the facets of Trek, really. And it was one of the projects that we had done for a client. It was a trade show promotion. And it was along the lines of doing some visual design for it. We were doing some structural design. So we created a printed piece that was given away at a trade show that was a premium. And they were able to piece it together to create a television set, a little miniature television set. And in there, there was individual cards. So we had the creative department going on with that. And then with individual cards, you scanned within their AR app, it launched a video inside of the TV. And that got our video department involved. It got Justin and our technical department involved. And it was even fun because each TV was like a little mini commercial for the client. So we were coming up with creative kind of tongue-in-cheek commercial ideas. And I was even able to get my son to play a role in one of the commercials. So he had fun with that. So it was just really nice to see everybody coming together on that project. And it was just really successful for the client as well.
That's awesome. That's really good to hear. And we do have a question. And if you want to jump in and ask your questions, William, go right ahead. You are more than welcome to actively engage with us and ask any questions that you have to Mike or Justin. So if you want to, I'll give it to you if you want to ask a specific question.
Yeah, I've got several questions, so I don't want to hog the entire meeting here, but
You're good. Do you want to tell us who you are and just give us a little
Sure,
background, and then
sure.
you can go ahead?
My name is William Hahn. I'm the design teacher at Auburn High School. Prior to this, I was teaching at the College of DuPage and the Art Institute. So this is high school is new to me. I've been teaching for 13 years, and I'm pretty familiar with what a collegiate portfolio looks like and what it takes to get those kids kind of like career ready. But teaching high school has I've learned a lot, but I'm still kind of curious to know what would your opinion be if you can remember back to if you even took high school design. I'm not sure, maybe they didn't even have it then, but like, what would you guys focus on for like a high school, say a portfolio or a project or core competencies to either get them college ready or maybe like possible like a junior entry level position? Like what are you looking for?
Sure. And when I went to high school, I just had the art classes. So I did not have the design. My daughter is going to be going into high school here soon, and it just floors me that she has the opportunities to start with these career path, and she's just so excited about it. So I really applaud you guys and that would be a very different path had that been available for me, which is very cool. At that level, I would say what was very fundamental when I started getting into the design career path at NAU was the fundamentals of design theory, very that kind of high level, working, understanding color theory, where you're not just making something cool, you're understanding how you got there and the process. So it's a lot about critical thinking. I felt was very, whether or not at the time I really appreciated it, but in hindsight, looking back, I found that those skills and what they taught with that to be very, very important in my career path now.
Justin, if you want to give us a little bit on what you think would be, because you came up with not having, you basically are self-taught in coding. So if you've got any suggestions as well.
Yeah, I am. And the thing is about that is, I mean, I did go to college. I got my bachelor's and master's degree in television production. But I mean, but the one thing that I think that those two that going to college allowed me to do is it didn't just necessarily teach me information, but it taught me how to find information or how to get information if I didn't know it, right? So I think if I were in a position of a high school student now, and I realized that things, when I went to high school, I graduated 21 years ago. They didn't really have a lot of computer science oriented coursework, at least where I went to school. So, and things in terms of online learning are dramatically different now compared to where they were 21 years ago. But I think if someone were to want to get into coding, it's easy to fall into the trap of information overload and, focusing in on too much on what language or what platform to learn. But in reality, all coding can boil down to a very reasonably small, I don't want to say very, but a reasonably small number of basic concepts that apply almost universally across any platform or language. So I think if someone were to be seriously wanting to get into coding and perhaps even an entry-level position, learning the basics of how programming works, and I won't go too thick in the weeds here, but those basics, like I said, apply almost universally to any language. And once you've got those down, then jumping into a different language from what you're comfortable with then becomes just a matter of learning the specific vocabulary of the language, because functionally, there's a lot of similarities between almost every programming language you could imagine.
And I think there's some similarities in what Justin and I are saying is that, to at the early age, establish a good foundation of fundamentals.
Yeah.
Right. And have that building block so that when you get farther along in your career choice within that path, that you have something that's good that you can build off of. Knowing a programming language, the basic fundamentals is going to be easy then to jump into something else. Understanding design theory, the sooner you can do that, the better off you'll be, a sophomore in college, first job type scenario. So really establishing those types of things at the beginning are I think, crucial.
Are those the type of skill sets that you would look at? Let's say, for example, a student may not be necessarily college bound, but we're looking for an internship, and they build out that portfolio at the high school level. If they have those type of things in their portfolio, is that something like a company like Trek would say, yeah, I'd be interested in hiring this student or putting them through an internship? Is that those kind of things that do it? We talk about it in manufacturing a lot. What kind of certifications could we give that would make them hireable right out of high school? Is that something similar that Trek or within that organization would look at?
Agree. Yeah, I think 100%. If I were to look at someone's, if they gave me a design and I could see the basics, I could see the thought and the process, the problem, the solution, the design aspect of it. That to me holds much more weight than someone who, like Justin was saying, just jumping right in and I know how to do this fancy, really cool effect in Photoshop. Here, check it out. Right. If those fundamentals are there, they are a much stronger candidate. Even though that's somebody that, might be able to do something a little more flashy, but looking at projects and portfolios, those core talents and skills really, for me, outweigh any of that flash.
Yeah. And to that, to that end, we've had here in technical, we've had interns who were fresh out of high school in the past, and they were fantastic. They wrote tools that we still use even today. And that was, gosh, Mike, how long was that ago with Caleb? 3-4 years ago now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So some of the tools that our intern wrote back then, they're still in active use even right now. And he was fresh out of high school at that point.
Awesome.
So, and again, like I still maintain that getting a college degree is important because it's more than just the knowledge. It's the acquisition of the knowledge and the ability to know how to get more knowledge we need. But at the end of the day, I'm more interested in what the individual is capable of, rather than what their credentials say, if that makes any sense. And this, and this is because in the past we've looked at people who come in with fantastic resumes, but when sat down and we start to say, well, we start to try and talk the talk and walk the walk, it all falls apart, because you can pad a resume all you want, but without some type of, without something to show for that resume, it's at least in tech anyway, it's not going to get you very far. And this is why when I came back from overseas, I knew that ahead of time, and I knew that if I didn't have something that I could present ahead of time, in this case, 2 games that really need to be updated, but 2 games that I still have even today, and those were what got me in the door, so to speak, despite not having a degree in computer science.
That's great. Thank you. Go ahead, William, if you've got another question, go right ahead. Oh, you go right ahead. Because you guys have kind of covered, like, one of my questions is, what do you expect? Like 15, 16, 17, what are my next steps? But I think you guys have kind of covered that because we've talked about the foundation, those skills. So William, if you have another question, go right ahead.
Okay, I don't want to take away from anybody else's time.
You are just fine. Go right ahead.
Okay, all right. So I was checking out your website. So I'm from Rockford, and I remember when Trek was on the corner of downtown on Main Street.
Yeah.
Moving back to Rockford, I was really glad to see that you guys are still up and running, so which is cool. It seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, just based off of like the landing page, you guys are really into more, and I could be way off here, but it seems like you're touting a lot more of like the VR and AR stuff, at least. Are you still in the world? Because Michael, I heard you say one of your favorite projects was like more of an interdisciplinary thing. Like, do you guys still handle print, or is it really just more on the like the coding end?
No, we do. I believe we might have mentioned it before you hopped on, but we do just about absolutely everything, and we're very fortunate to be able to do that in-house. So we're going from branding with identity work, we're going from print brochures, collateral, we're doing dimensional pieces, but we're putting out in the forefront is the emerging technologies of AR and VR. So, to have the discipline of understanding, with print design and how that can translate into, user interface design, and then how we can apply that to augmented reality and virtual reality experiences across the board. So no, we still do all of the more traditional print mediums. We do video. We do technical, we do website development, app development, AR, VR experiences. So it's really nice to have that all under one house.
One question I have too is, what is that like opportunity for growth, not just at Trek, but within this career? What's, you start here, what are the steps that you can take in order to grow your career once you get started?
Certainly. I think that's a good question. There's, within this field, there's lots of businesses and there's lots of companies at different levels, right? So you could go to a company that might work on a smaller scale with a smaller group of employees, and you're focused on a couple clients that might just stay in the print world. Or you might be able to go to a company that's a little larger, and now they do a little print but a more video. And then you can go into companies within larger cities where there's hundreds of people, multiple floors, all working in that type of environment. And I think that can go both with the technical and the creative aspect of it. So you have the opportunity to find your kind of niche that you feel comfortable in. And usually right out of school, you do start at an entry level. There are different levels within the design field where you come in and you're designing, then it grows with responsibilities. Maybe it's larger projects, you're doing a solo team or a solo project rather than being part of it. And then you can grow into directing, and you can direct teams, you can direct individuals, more responsibilities. And then when you can go up to my position when you're a creative director, and you can oversee the creative for full entire clients, so that you're kind of like their ambassadors, and then you're overseeing all the creative that comes out of a company as well. So
anything to add, Justin? That's great information.
I think Mike just about summed it up for me. It's pretty good stuff.
He did explain that very well for us. Thank you very much. So one thing too is like, what advice would you give to any student that's looking to go into this career field? I know we've kind of talked about it a couple of times and we talked about the foundation, but is there any additional advice you'd give to a 16, 17, or 18-year-old that's looking to possibly get in this career?
I think, especially in the world of software development, embrace failure. Expect to fail. Don't look at failure as losing, if you will, but look at it as a data point. As well, that didn't work, right? And I think that it's all too emphasized in some capacity in society these days that we don't want to fail. Losing is bad. You got to win. You got to win. You got to win, right? But in software development, it's not always about a big victory. It's about small incremental steps that ultimately lead up to your destination, right? So I think that if you're interested in getting into software development in any capacity, learning how to almost desire failure in order to, as a way to get to where you want to go, would be a very valuable skill to learn.
Yeah, and I would say be passionate. Now, I'm not saying that you have to I kind of like what I'm doing, that type of thing, where it's across your everything that you're doing. I would say what you're tasked with. If you find that you can be passionate with this, that I'm going to research this project. Maybe not everybody is great at art, and you don't have to be good at art to be passionate in this career. Like I said, I liked art in high school. I felt like I really enjoyed my time in my art classes. But I didn't know I wanted to go into this right away. But I was very passionate about it. And so that's really kind of come into my career development as well. Finding things that interest me, that are interesting in my field of work, and being passionate about learning those things, about learning new things, understanding that it's hard to sometimes it's hard to spend that extra time, right? When you get into the workforce, it's 5 o'clock. Sometimes you don't want to have to go home and get into it. You want to be able to disconnect, and that's okay, right? Not everybody does that, but when you're in your sweet spot, you're being passionate about what you do. I think that is a great work ethic for not only just this career, but also just in life.
Great. Thank you both very much. That's good feedback and good suggestions to our students. We appreciate that. Roman, I'm going to throw it over to you for any questions you have, or if you see any Q&A that you would like to share.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thanks to the panel for the discussion and answering the questions. I know, Michael and Justin, you had touched on some of the skills that were needed in the graphic design industry. So you had touched on critical thinking and being problem solvers, also appreciating art and understanding art design. So, but then we had a discussion on various projects and even roles within graphic design that are not necessarily what you think of when you think graphic design. You're automatically thinking designing work. So let me ask, how critical is it for someone to have strong hand drawing type art skills to be successful in this industry?
Well, I think within Trek, we have very diverse skill sets, which is I think a testament to everybody here and our success. And I think there's a role for everybody within the graphic design, within the creative department, whether or not if you can physically sketch out your ideas that are or make unique art, it's not crucial, right? Where as long as we have those building blocks, our tools are not always going to be of a pen and pencil all the time. Our computer is our tool. And as long as you have your skills within the programs that we do, that we utilize every day, whether or not it's a complete artistic ability is not as important, but having those building blocks that we talked about, that good base, is going to allow you to execute and find that solution to the problem within the programs that we use.
Great, great. So how would someone go about applying for a job, specifically with Trek? What are the resources out there that a student, whether they're interested in maybe doing a summer internship or just applying, what's the best route?
To us specifically is reach out to us through our website. There's a contact form. Please reach out to us. We have some certain availability for internships, and yeah, reach out to us. That's all you can do. And with anybody, if you have another agency or another discipline, that just get out there, just ask. All they can do is say no, and then you move on. Right. But right. For us, yeah, please reach out to us through our website. We do internships. And, when job applications are up, usually we post them not only on our website, but also other job application sites. So those are always good things to look at.
Great. Thank you. Yeah.
We are coming up on our time. So William, do you have any other questions that you would like to ask?
I mean, I've got a ton of questions, but I won't take up anybody's time. So I'll just email you guys. And if you wouldn't mind, maybe I'd like to drop by and just see what your facilities look like.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep. We'd love that.
Thank you.
William, why don't you drop your email in the chat for me, and I'll make a connection to Mike and Justin with you, so you guys can connect and get out there and we do a lot of job shadows and site visits for our students. So I think that would be great for some of the students to come out and see that as well, and that are interested in these careers. I think that would be great. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'll make you guys that connection, and thank you so much for your time today. I really greatly appreciate it. And we will